All right, let me take you right into the atmosphere that has been surrounding this team. Because the energy around Philadelphia lately has been something different. Almost like every storyline keeps stacking on top of the last one, and the city refuses to take a breath. Eagles fans are wired, restless, half excited and half stressed, and honestly, that is the perfect environment for talking ball, and before anything else, we need to get into what has been turning heads across the entire league. Because the wave around Quinyon Mitchell is not hype anymore, it is confirmation. Every single snap he plays looks like another page in a highlight reel. And the most impressive part is how natural everything seems for him at the start of the season. People were wondering how quickly a rookie could fit into a complex system. But the answer came faster than anyone expected. He is not limited to one side of the formation. He is not sheltered. He is not hidden. He is taking on top receivers on both sides of the field, and he is doing it with a calmness that only players far older usually display when quarterbacks throw his way. It almost feels like they are testing themselves rather than testing him, and what separates him is not only his athletic traits, which are already elite, but the way he processes information in real time. You watch him line up and he is already anticipating the route. He is not backpedaling out of fear. He is not giving cushion he does not need. He is not biting on nonsense. He sits on routes like he wrote the playbook himself. You see a star wide out break outside, and Quinyon is already there, flipping his hips smoothly, closing the window before the pass even arrives. When he plants that inside foot and explodes through a dig route, you can see how he is blending technique with instinct, and when he finishes the play with that perfect balance of aggression and control, securing the tackle lane with one arm and knocking the ball loose with the other, it is the kind of thing that makes defensive backs coaches lose their minds in the best way possible. Then you get that fourth and short moment where situation awareness is everything. He does not backpedal. He does not hesitate. He knows exactly what the offense is trying to do, and he plays the sticks with the confidence of someone who has been studying film for a decade. That right there is star behavior. And what makes all of this even more exciting for the fan base is the idea of having him paired with Cooper DeJean for years to come. Philadelphia has been waiting a long time for a truly homegrown defensive back duo. The kind that reminds people of old-school corners who built reputations on physicality and timing. It has been a while since this team had a young player in the secondary who commanded this level of respect so early, and because of that, fans cannot help but dream a little bigger. Add in the fact that this week brings back the Kelly green uniform nostalgia, and the hype grows even more whenever the Eagles put on those colors. The whole vibe feels different, and heading into a rivalry game under those lights only elevates the tension. Cowboys fans got loud after beating the Raiders, acting like they rediscovered who they are. But everyone in Philadelphia knows it takes a lot more than a predictable win to shift the balance of this rivalry. The Eagles are preparing to walk straight into their stadium with confidence, wearing the classic colors, and reminding everyone that this matchup is about physicality, not noise. But all that energy in the city is not just about the uniforms or an emerging star corner. The conversation around Jalen Hurts has become its own whirlwind. Every day another piece of information floats out, another theory appears, another unnamed source gives an opinion. And then social media grabs it, spins it, and suddenly what was barely a whisper turns into a full-blown debate. The quarterback position always brings scrutiny, but this season it feels like every little detail becomes a storyline. It all started with small things, like who Hurts was targeting more often, or why certain reads seemed forced. Then came reactions online, including that moment involving a family member interacting with a comment, which only fueled speculation. And then came the talk about possible frustration within the offense. Not necessarily a locker room meltdown, but enough chatter to create an uncomfortable cloud over the team. When that kind of noise starts, you get different voices giving different perspectives. Some people claim the situation is bigger than what the public sees. Others insist the whole thing is being blown out of proportion, even among insiders. There is disagreement. One voice says this is nothing more than typical internal frustration that happens when an offense is not flowing smoothly. Another voice compares it to earlier quarterback issues in franchise history, which obviously sets off alarms across the city. And then you have those who are extremely connected within the organization insisting that if they have not released anything official, it is because the situation is nowhere near as dramatic as certain stories make it sound. According to them, yes, Hurts is a central part of the issues right now. Because quarterbacks always are, but that does not mean the building is collapsing. Sometimes it is simply the pressure of expectations, while all this noise swirls. One thing remains true. The team still believes it can fix what needs to be fixed, and as much as people want to talk about offensive frustration, the defensive side of the ball has been turning into a strength at the perfect time. That brings us to Adoree Jackson, who has quickly become one of the most misunderstood players on this roster. He deals with criticism constantly, and fans can be brutal when a corner has even one rough game. But what stands out about him is his mentality. He does not crumble when something goes wrong. He does not lose confidence after one bad rep. He keeps competing, keeps attacking routes, keeps believing in what he brings to the field. He spoke about staying true to himself, about ignoring outside voices, and about refusing to let one moment define him. And honestly, that kind of mindset matters more than people think. Every week he has shown improvement. He had games earlier in the year where fans were questioning whether he should even be starting, especially after matchups where the spotlight felt heavy, but he never looked defeated. He just kept responding. You can see it in his tackling, in his positioning, in the timing of his pass breakups. When the defensive line is healthy and forcing quarterbacks to hurry, Adoree looks even better. You can tell he trusts his technique more when the pass rush is firing, and that is the recipe for this defense to reach its ceiling. If the front makes the quarterback uncomfortable and the corners play with confidence, this unit can dominate games. That is why his steady rise has been so important heading into the middle of the season. And talking about the defensive line naturally leads into the conversation around Nolan Smith. The fanbase has been wondering why his snap count has been so limited, especially considering how explosive he looked earlier in the year. But watching closely, it became obvious that something was going on, and the coaching staff finally admitted he is still working his way back from that Trice issue. They do not want to overload him. They do not want to rush him. He is out there, but the team is easing him in with caution. You can see glimpses of his speed, his bend, his energy. But then he gets pulled from the field, and you remember he is on a pitch count. Once he gets back to 80 or 90%, once he starts playing freely again, this defensive line could become something terrifying. With Jalen Carter healthy, with the rotation deep again, you can almost feel that turning point approaching. The schedule even helps a bit, with a short week followed by a longer break that should give several players the chance to reset physically. And when this defense is fully healthy, when the secondary plays with confidence and the edge rushers fly off the line, everything changes. The offense might still be searching for rhythm, but the defense is positioned to carry games if needed, and that alone gives this team a level of hope that fans are desperate to hold on to. And as all of this unfolds, you can feel the locker room trying to tighten the bolts and block out the outside noise. Because once the narrative around a team starts spinning uncontrollably, the only way to regain balance is by putting together complete performances on the field. That is why the next stretch feels so defining. It is not about proving analysts wrong or feeding arguments online. It is about reminding the league who this roster actually is when everything clicks. There have been glimpses throughout the season of what this group can become, moments when the pace picks up, the tempo makes sense, and the chemistry feels natural. The offense has shown it in small bursts, especially when Hurts gets comfortable spreading the ball around without forcing anything. When he takes control with patience instead of urgency, the entire identity of the offense shifts, the receivers settle in, the timing sharpens, and the run game opens space automatically. But the constant pressure to fix everything in one game has made those stretches inconsistent. And that is exactly what the coaching staff has been trying to reel back inside the building. They know the biggest issue has been rhythm. You can sense that they believe the solutions are based more on cohesion than on dramatic changes. Even the small details make a difference. When the offensive line manages to win early downs, the play calling becomes cleaner. When Hurts does not feel the need to force a throw to a specific receiver, the distribution becomes more balanced, and when the offense plays within itself instead of chasing highlights, everything feels smoother. But the tension around the quarterback has created an environment where every throw feels like a statement. Every read feels like a referendum on who he is as a leader. That is why so many veterans in the locker room have stepped in behind the scenes, telling him to relax and stay present. They know the city can be loud, but they also know he thrives when he plays with calmness instead of urgency. Meanwhile, the defense has been carrying itself with a renewed sense of confidence, especially as more players return. From injuries, you look at someone like Jalen Carter, who has been fighting through bumps all year, and you can see how much his presence changes everything around him. Quarterbacks start speeding up their reads. Offensive lines start to struggle with double-teaming everyone. And when you pair that with a fully energized Nolan Smith, even if only for limited snaps, you can sense the whole front seven moving with a kind of controlled aggression that they missed earlier in the season, and because the front is surging again. Players like Adoree Jackson get to play with their eyes sharper and their reactions quicker. The defense begins to complement itself rather than surviving play-to-play. And that is the kind of shift that creates real momentum in the second half of a season. It is also worth noticing how the younger defensive players have been feeding off the energy of the veterans. When a guy like Hassan Reddick or Fletcher Cox commands attention in the trenches, it opens the door for emerging talents to play freely. That ripple effect is what has made this defense historically dangerous in other seasons. And fans are starting to feel that same dynamic blooming again. Quinyon Mitchell continues to rise. Cooper DeJean brings versatility, and the safety group is growing more disciplined each week. You watch this unit communicate before the snap and you can see trust developing. Something that was shaky early on, they move in sync, shift together, and react as a single group rather than individuals, and with Fangio dialing protections and disguises more confidently now that he has healthier players. There is a real sense that the identity of this defense is finally taking shape. But even with all that progress, the conversation always circles back to Jalen Hurts. Because everything this team hopes to accomplish still flows through him. There have been questions about his handling of pressure, his comfort in the pocket, his willingness to push the ball to different receivers, and the overall chemistry between him and the staff calling plays. Some of the concerns are fair, some are exaggerated, but all of them carry weight because of the position he plays. Philadelphia is not a city that cares about excuses. If the team wins, the noise fades. If the team stumbles, every minor flaw becomes a headline. Hurts knows that better than anyone. And even if he does not show it publicly, you can sense he is carrying the burden heavily this year. What makes this moment so critical is how the team responds to adversity. Last season they looked unstoppable early, but cracks developed later and the momentum shifted too late to recover. This year feels different. The struggles came earlier, the criticism came faster, and the response will define whether this team is truly built to adjust. There are signs that they are learning from last year's collapse. The coaching staff has shown more willingness to adapt, more openness to letting certain players evolve into larger roles, and more patience with managing injuries. Even the locker room seems more vocal about keeping the internal structure stable, which might be the biggest difference of all. Veterans are acting like anchors, refusing to let the narrative tear the team apart. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. Hold on to your helmets, Eagles fans, because the rumor mill is spinning faster than ever. ESPN insiders are reporting what could be a blockbuster shakeup for the team. A Pro Bowl defensive end is reportedly on his way to Philadelphia. While sources remain tight-lipped about the identity, the whispers alone have ignited a frenzy across social media, fan forums, and sports talk shows. The Eagles have long been in the market to bolster their pass rush, and this potential signing could signal a seismic shift in the team's defensive strategy. Analysts speculate that the move would instantly upgrade a unit that has flirted with inconsistency, giving the Eagles a feared presence on the line and a potential game-changer against elite quarterbacks. Fans have already started imagining how a top-tier defensive end could reshape the dynamics of their defensive schemes, from stifling opposing offenses to energizing the locker room. While nothing is officially confirmed, the chatter around this acquisition is impossible to ignore. Some insiders hint that negotiations have been intense, with the player reportedly weighing his options carefully before making a decision. If the deal goes through, it could not only impact Philadelphia's immediate defensive firepower, but also reverberate throughout the league. As other teams scramble to react, the timing of the move adds another layer of intrigue. Philadelphia has shown a willingness to be bold in the past, and this rumor suggests a front office ready to make waves. Coaches, players, and fans alike are watching closely, knowing that the arrival of a Pro Bowl caliber talent could elevate the entire squad. Speculation is reaching a fever pitch, with fans dissecting potential schemes, snap counts, and even wardrobe choices for the big arrival. For now, It's all a tantalizing whisper, but if ESPN sources are correct, Eagles Nation may be about to witness one of the most talked about defensive acquisitions in recent memory. Stay tuned. This story is developing fast, and the next confirmation or denial could send shockwaves across the NFL landscape. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.